Ladies and gentlemen of the audio radiance, it's Dr. Hobb Day.
It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA. Here's Kevin Dorris.
The first part that actually happened, an announcer once said, "Ladies and gentlemen of the audio radiance."
Yes, well, you get these little neurological problems, and sometimes
Well, that was intentional, though, buddy.
Oh.
But my favorite is the guy, I don't know what his name was. He'll live forever in history.
Right.
When the royal family walks into the room, you boom, boom on the floor.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Huh.
And you announce them.
Oh.
And this guy said, boom, boom, the Duck and Duchess of Windsor.
There you go.
Now, being Irish, I appreciated that.
Yes, indeed. I hope he has another job opportunity.
Well, no, I mean, the guy's gone, along with the Duck and the Duchess.
Yes.
They've gone to that great palace in the sky.
You're talking about the little Nazi sympathizers, right?
Well, that's what they said, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
we're talking here about King Edward, the Sixth.
I don't know. Short time.
Yeah, Edward the Sixth. His father didn't trust him either, for that matter.
And what's her name? Simpson, right?
Wally Simpson.
Right.
And he had an affair with a lot of people. It was like his grandfather, who was also an Edward. He was a big womanizer.
Well, old Wally had been around the block once or twice.
Yeah, Wally was not exactly what you call the girl you take home. But anyway.
Well, in any case, do we have any current news?
Well, now, wait a minute. A lot of people don't know this. He gave up the throne for the woman he loves. He loved. And that was... Churchill wrote that for him.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I cannot continue with my duties without the woman I love.
One of Churchill's better pieces.
Well, yeah. He got in a lot of trouble for that, by the way.
Who, Churchill?
In the House of Commons, yeah. He stuck by Edward.
Oh, did he?
The Duck and Duchess, yeah. All right, now listen, Dr. Heineman, I know you're a big supporter of Obamacare. You don't like people to know that, but I'm going to reveal the truth.
Here we go.
All right, now
scandal monger here.
The latest data from Blue Cross Blue Shield says now they have operations in all states.
I'm not sure that's true, but they are pretty widespread. Yes.
That's right. I'm reading it carefully now. In almost every state. I stand corrected.
Well, that's what I'm here for, Kevin, to draw you up short.
All right, here we go. The Blues say that between 15 and 20% of their new customers are not paying their premiums, which means they're not really covered. So another lie coming down from Washington.
Well, yes, I would guess those numbers that the Obama administration is putting out are pretty soft.
Did you find it a little odd that they never knew how many people actually signed up and how many actually paid and all that other jazz until it was time to tell us?
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't want to go too far with that, but my general response would be that you and the Republicans are wasting their time discussing this. The thing is in place. The fact that there are a lot of screw-ups and there are going to be more screw-ups, I think, is established. And I think it's time to move on to some other issues that will carry the Republicans.
If you mean we are going to have to live with this monstrosity.
Oh, you are?
No, you're not.
Oh,
here's what the Republican. I mean, I'm not a Republican anymore. You know.
No. But I believe you are registered a
registered
Republican.
that way. I mean, because it takes the government over a year.
I don't know how a person lives with that kind of hypocrisy. Registered Republican and then going around bad-mouthing the party.
Oh, I've always bad-mouthed the party. You know that. You establishment Republicans. There are other guys in the party I like. But anyway, the party line now among the Republicans is not to repeal Obamacare, but to replace it. And 6 Democrat senators wanted to make major Republican changes in Obamacare, but they were shut up by Grandma Reed.
Yes.
Did you know that?
No, I'm sure that Reed is playing a pretty heavy role there in controlling the Democrats, because I think there's a real urge right now for the Democrats, to put it mildly, to scatter in all different directions and get out from under these kinds of things. But I think the approach will be to make changes here and there where...
Replace it. That's what they'll do.
needed.
They'll come up with whatever good features it had, and I had 2 good features I can think of. Well, I don't know about keeping your kid on there till 26. I'm not sure that was a good idea. But that would probably stay, and then you can't be canceled or uninsured because of an existing disease. Right. So the Republicans have already said they want to keep those 2 features, but then they want to straighten the thing out. It's a terrible mess, and you know perfectly well it is, Bob. You do, don't you?
Well, if I listen to you, I do.
Oh, if
I listen to Fox News, I guess I do. I tell you, Kevin, and you just don't listen to me, Kevin.
Listen to this, America. This is the party line.
It's time to move away from that and get on to some of the major issues.
Like what?
The imperial presidency.
Nobody cares about that.
Oh, yes, they do.
They do
you
not.
You have a president who's just wandering around issuing orders.
He should be impeached.
Hither and yon.
He should be impeached. He's broken his oath to the
Constitution. Well, if you think he should be impeached, don't you think the imperial presidency might make an issue out there? People, and the whole idea of the imperial presidency argument is not to deal with any of the specifics, so to speak, involved in policy, but to attach the Democrats as closely as they can to whom?
Obama.
Exactly. And Obama has already told candidates running for office that he'll stay out of their districts if they want him to in order to help them win. Now, that does indicate to you a certain amount of unpopularity
Same thing happened with George Bush. He told the Republicans, I won't come near you because I know I'm
And the Democrats took control of that election. So I think the idea here with the imperial presidency, Obama's flouting the Constitution.
He should be impeached. There's no question about it. Oh. He's broken his oath. He's broken the Constitution. But let me tell you something. What's your name again? Heineman.
Could you share with me? Yes.
Yeah. When George Soros and his friends decided to run Obama, they said, let's get a good-looking black guy because that'll solidify the black vote, and they'll stick with him till the bitter end, and then add to it the regular, I'll vote Democrat, even if it's the Antichrist on the ticket, and they elected the guy. And I'm telling you, Bob, they can't impeach him. There would be a revolution.
Then just a minute. Why are we spending our time talking about impeaching him then?
Well, you brought up imperial presidency.
I said nothing about impeaching the president.
No, but that's what they should do.
Well, you jumped in right away and interrupted.
What are the other issues? We got you. What are the other issues?
Well, I think foreign policy is a legitimate issue.
People don't care about that anymore. You people are... even the Republicans aren't strong on defense anymore.
I do think things like, for example, March, we lost no American troops in Afghanistan for the first time since 2007 or something like that. Probably helps Obama. Probably. It certainly does help Obama. So I guess you have to be a little careful with this whole foreign policy thing. But I think, again, talking about ineptness and basic incompetence.
Well, he is.
Yeah, well, that's my point.
Yeah, but people don't care. They don't want to go to war,
Well,
Bob.
what do people care about, Kevin?
They care about, let me tell you what they care about. Obamacare. They care about, even though they don't know what's happening, inflation, and they care about the fact that there are no jobs. They care about that.
I see. Inflation.
Well, they don't know that inflation is going crazy.
Well,
because the government says it's 1%.
Yes,
yeah,
well,
go down
that's
and buy
hardly
some,
inflationary.
Yeah, well, that's because when they take these numbers, how many times must I explain this to you? When they calculate inflation, they don't count the cost of food or gasoline. Price of gasoline has doubled under Obama. If you don't count food and gasoline,
well, just a minute.
There is no inflation.
Where do you get they don't count food? Don't they have a basket of food that the average consumer?
You're thinking like the 60s and 70s. They don't do that, Bob. I'm telling you, food and gas does not count in inflation.
Well, I would have to check that.
Well,
but
please do.
I'm willing to take your word.
Well, you better. Yeah.
Temporarily. We'll tentatively take your word for that.
Did you hear that, Chris Goff? He didn't believe you
tentatively.
either. All right. Okay, now let me point out a couple facts that will come as a shock to you.
Well, I hope they're solid facts.
They
Kevin.
are.
We can't be.
Come from the Gallup organization, all right?
Sure.
I know you've got money in the stock market and you think everything's wonderful.
No, I'm pretty happy, yes.
Yeah, we're dumping tax dollars in so guys like you can get rich. But
well, I appreciate that.
underemployment, as measured by Gallup, was 16.9% in March. Now, here's the figure that'll blow your mind away.
Ooh.
Only 42.7% of employable Americans actually have a job.
Yeah.
Which is worse than last year. And yet, they talk about a recovery. There's no recovery.
Well, again, Kevin, I think the economy is doing pretty well. I think what you're dealing with, again, is a whole change in the composition of the economy. And I think it is true that a lot of people are underemployed and basically
working 2 or 3 jobs, many of them. Yeah,
yeah, and low-paying jobs, just trying to hold on. But the fact of the matter is the kind of jobs that were available 20, 30 years ago just aren't around anymore because technology has replaced a lot of these jobs.
Well, I also know that being a Republican, you are for free trade, but even the New York
No,
Times...
I am not for free trade.
Oh, God bless you. You finally saw the light.
I did. I used to be for free trade.
I know.
And I can understand you're attributing that to me, Kevin.
Because you're an establishment Republican.
But the more I look at it, and that's one of the pluses I often gave to President Clinton because he was a big free trade guy. But the fact of the matter is, the United States, you look at the start of the United States, and we certainly didn't get started based on free trade.
No, and
we raised all kinds of tariffs to protect our...
we've helped the Chinese a great deal, yeah.
And so I think this idea of free trade has to be limited quite a bit, yeah.
Well, I'm glad to see that you've seen the light. Now...
Well, with your help.
Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about Obama turning the Internet over to we don't know whom, but the Republican lawmakers said Wednesday, now a group of them, but the guy who spoke was Greg Walden, who's chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. He said, quote, "Make no mistake," I love that expression, "make no mistake, threats to the openness and freedom of the Internet are real. Leaders such as Vladimir Putin have explicitly announced their desire to gain control of the Internet." Now, why would Obama give away the Internet? Why would he do that?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of international pressure since the Internet has become, frankly, a global entity that you're getting a lot of pressure from other countries saying, look, we've got to have something to do with this. Other than that, I don't know. Now, I don't think you should overestimate the effects of this control, but I do agree that there are, even Germany and France and places like that have put limits on what can go across the Internet. In fact, you can be prosecuted for things that you put on the Internet that in this country you can put almost anything, except for kiddie porn, which you can get yourself in a lot of trouble with. But I think corollary to this, Kevin, you should be aware that we have also given up to the Russians propulsion into space, so that all of our rockets and such are basically handled by the Russians.
Who did that, Bob?
I'm not certain whether it was Bush or Obama. I think maybe
Obama.
it was. You think it was?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I guess the point is the Russians have rockets that are perfectly capable of doing the job, and I don't know.
So we have to rent from them.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, beautiful.
My class kind of wanted to know what was going on there, and my view is that we moved way beyond our space limitations here, out into way out into toward Mars and some of these other planets, and even
you can't
farther.
pay for that plus Obamacare.
Well, the point is, we may well feel that our space sophistication is far beyond the Russians. I'm not sure.
Well, how about
so
this?
So they're sort of like taxi cabs, I guess.
I know you believe it's a good idea to cut the Army back to pre-World War II.
I do not believe that's a good idea, Kevin.
You said that last week.
I don't think I did. You keep misinterpreting my clear and succinct statement.
Well, what do you think about cutting the Army back to pre-World War II?
I don't think that's a good idea.
I don't either.
No.
Who did that, Bob?
President Obama is on the move. But I think Congress is helping him.
Yeah, so what's with these guys? Don't they understand what's going on?
I think, first of all, Obama is infatuated with the use of special forces and drones. And we had a speaker on campus, was it Monday or Tuesday, discussing drones. I don't know, you didn't have a chance to hear him?
I didn't.
Well, you missed a real, we appreciate that. He had a pretty full house for his talk.
What do you say, Bob?
Well, the one point I think that you would find interesting, first of all, I think this guy is both Israeli and American citizen. Mm-hmm. He worked for the Israeli Defense Force for, I think, 18 years as a legal advisor and lieutenant colonel. But he was pointing out that Obama and Bush, there isn't much difference in terms of their approach toward use of drones and that sort of thing. And he told this story twice. We had him in class, and I went to his lecture. He had a meeting with 5 of his drone people and such in the United States and 5 top media people. And he was sitting next to a fellow who writes, I guess, to one of the major papers, I would guess the New York Times, the Washington Post. And while they were talking there among themselves, he said to the guy, well, frankly, he said, if Bush did what Obama's doing, you guys would be all over his case.
Yeah.
But you're giving Obama a free pass.
For everything.
He said the guy turned his chair and turned his back on him the rest of the meeting.
Really?
Yep.
The reporter did.
Yeah. I don't know, it was reporter, columnist, whatever. Mm-hmm. And his point is the media is just totally immersed in Obama.
Yeah.
Now, there's a guy, you know, which you'd probably have a lot of differences with, but
an Israeli, he can see it better than our people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he said he said that's a serious problem with this whole approach using drones and such. You're not getting any kind of clear-cut conversation and dialogue on the dangers. And the point is, in terms of cutting the military, I think, number one, Obama doesn't see any major threat to the United States out there. I think he's right. Number two, he thinks he can fall back on drones and special forces to deal with these issues, and I think there he's wrong.
Well, Bob, well said. I'll give you credit for that.
Well, thanks, Kevin.
Well said. You're beginning to see the light. Yes.
Well, it takes a while.
Now let's get to New York politics. Bill Nojay came out very strongly this week, right on this radio station.
Oh.
For Rob Astorino.
Yes. We establishment Republicans fall into line.
Well, yeah, but I detected from Nojay, I may have underestimated this guy. And he said what he said to us privately. The only thing Astorino doesn't have is $30 million.
Yeah, I agree. I've said again and again, there's nothing wrong with his message.
And do you know that this week, what was it, Wednesday, Bill Nojay got on he's heard all across upstate New York now. He's on many, many stations. We were the first to take him.
You bet. I can remember you and I sitting with him and explaining to him how to do it.
And he knows how to do it. He's very good. But Nojay said he was ticked off because the media, Gannett, Time Warner, they said that there was an excess of 3,500 people at this rally, this anti-SAFE Act. He said he asked the state police who were guarding it how many, and one cop said 6 to 8, and the other cop said, 6, and so Nojay went with 6,000. He said they never have crowds like 6,000. He said the biggest crowd he can remember for any demonstration was about 400.
Yeah. No, I think it's a hot issue, and what I liked about it was that Governor Cuomo was pushing getting the budget done on time, 4 years in a row, whatever.
Yeah, big deal.
At the same time, you had this big anti-SAFE, so that drew a lot, I think, of the
attention.
Yeah, substance from Cuomo's claim that having the budget on time every 4 years.
You still don't think Astorino will beat Cuomo, do you?
No, But
Well,
there's
there's
but
a
I
lot
would
of-
not say that it's out of the realm of possibility by any means. And I guarantee you the Cuomo people are not going to look at it as a sure thing. Again, I noted some of the things that Mr. Noje said when he was in Hornell here the other day, and it's basically the same thing we've already said on the show, that there are some core constituencies there, like the gun owners, the pro-life and such, that are going to turn out, and they're going to turn out in big numbers. And that will, I think, as Noje agrees, cut into that margin that Cuomo had in the last election. And the point is, the closer that gets, then it gets interesting. So if Astorino can pull within single digits of Cuomo, I think it's going to get interesting, yes.
Well, Bob, on those happy notes from a...
Optimistic, you might say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say happy.
No, that's
optimistic.
Right. Optimistic from an establishment Republican. We have to wrap it up for this
Well,
week.
I'm glad you were able to work me in here.
Well, listen,
this
let
morning.
me. I had someone.
He has more.
I had
folks.
someone on the air yesterday, younger than thee or me,
Well, that wouldn't be too hard.
and I said to her, "Yes, I know it's getting difficult to find someone older."
I mean, when you get up in your 80s, Kevin.
Wait a minute, hold it, Jack. So I said to this gal, she's a lovely gal, very bright gal, but it shows you there's a big generational gap. I said, "Who was the dirty little coward who shot Mr. Howard?" You know the answer to that, don't you?
I don't know who Mr. Howard is.
Oh my Lord!
Dirty little coward
Who shot Mr. Howard was Bob Ford, who shot Jesse in the back.
You mean the fellow my great-grandfather met while he was
Bob Ford or Jesse?
Yeah,
Jesse met Jesse
and Frank, yeah.
What, was it a friendly meeting?
Oh, yeah. He had to go down in the morning to start the fire in the single-room schoolhouse that they had back there in central Illinois. He comes in at 6:30 in the morning, and they're the James brothers and the younger brothers are saddling up and leaving. They'd stayed overnight and I bet they did that all across the Midwest.
Yeah.
They said, "Don't give us any trouble. We're not give you any
We
trouble.
won't shoot you."
And
Right.
we're out of here." Well, my grandfather was probably 11 years old, the great-grandfather.
Did he know who it was?
Yeah, he knew who it was. Yeah.
Well, listen, then I went on to tell the story because yesterday was the anniversary of the shooting of Jesse. Whatever
I see.
happened?
You celebrate this.
Oh, yeah. Whatever happened to Bob Ford, the guy...
They shot him, too, didn't they?
Yeah, a fine Irish lad. Here's his picture.
Yeah, he looks
Edward O'Kelly. Edward O'Kelly went into Ford's saloon. It was a tent, actually. And he said, "Hey, Bob." Bob turned around. He blew him away with both barrels of a shotgun.
Right. Well,
So then O'Kelly went on to become the man who killed Jesse James. His sentence was commuted because he had a medical condition. He was released in 1902, but he, O'Kelly, fine Irish lad, was killed January 13th, 1904.
this is quite a slaughter here, Kevin.
Oh, these guys were all crooks while trying to shoot a policeman. And Bob Ford, who was a gangster with Jesse, he rode with Jesse and then shot Jesse for the reward, which he never got, by the way. And
he got his reward, I guess.
he got $500. He was supposed to get $10,000. But anyway, Bob Ford went on to become a cop. I'm telling you, Bob, you folks in the Midwest, you had wild times out
God's
there.
country, Kevin.
All
God's
right.
country. And they meet their God a little sooner than some of the rest of us.
That's it for today, folks. Join us next week when Dr. Heineman will retract almost everything he said today.